unfortunate things.
The shadow of Rome is vast, and you will yet die under it, to the roar of the crowd.
Why are you here?
Because I trusted in the honor of a Roman.
You have a woman.
Taken from me when I was captured.
I see things in men that they themselves have lost. I give it breath until it ignites. How many men would you kill to hold your wife again?
I would kill them all.
Gladiator does not fear death.
Gladiators' virtues extend beyond the arena. As lovers, they're said to be ravenous beasts.
Make him do it again.
I swear to be burned, chained, beaten, or die by the sword. They cheer for blood, and they shall have it.
A man must accept his fate, or be destroyed by it.
Spartacus, Season 1, starring the late, great Andy Whitfield. We're going to get into it again tonight. We are on episodes 9 and 10 already. So next week is the final Spartacus, where we'll be discussing all 3 of the last episodes. And then after that, we are starting a new Sunday night stream where we're going to be getting into one of the best cop shows ever made, my personal favorite, The Shield. Anyway, let me bring on my guests. The Inside Man may or may not be joining us later. He is running late. But first up, my regular co-host for this section, Nicola Loser, who's just been having a chat with my AI device. How are you?
I mean, I'm different now. I feel violated, but also excited.
I thought you were going to say validated.
Yeah.
I told her to say lots of nice things about you.
That's why. See, I knew she was lying. That's why.
Next, but by no means least, it's Darth Plato's in the house.
How you doing, Lance? Thanks for having me on. Good to see you again, Blue Collar.
Hey, buddy.
How you doing, chat?
Yeah, we are. Yes, we are live. I haven't done a Northern Bastard and forgot to press the live button there.
Yeah.
So okay, we're going to get into the episodes, episode 9 and episode 10. These are pivotal episodes. Lots of stuff happens.
Yeah, definitely.
In these 2 episodes. Yeah, pretty cracking stuff actually. So episode 9, which has the very unsubtle, blunt title of Whore, directed by Michael Hurst. It's written by Daniel Knaff or Naff. I don't know if you pronounce it like that. So we have that. That's episode 9, and then we have episode 10, which is where did I write that down? I think it's directed by Jesse Wan. Is that right? I want to double check that. Hang on, I don't want to get these credits wrong. Okay, so I mixed it up there. Episode 9. I'm going to do a quick sort of talk through, breakdown.
Try out this movie I made for you. See how this works.
Yeah. So we've got some great slides for that, and then episode 10, which we'll get into as well, is a little bit more succinct because it's not that less happens in it, but it's more that events are condensed into rather big, sort of dramatic, character-changing events, really, for the people concerned. So, okay, let's get into the stills here, which I've got to thank my good buddy Blue Collar for constructing, and he's using a new device.
Yeah, stay one up. We'll press play whenever you're ready.
Okay, so yeah, let's keep it on that rather family-friendly image there for the moment. Yeah, so let me just get Just want to get them. I've got the right episode up. Gods of the Arena. No, that's not the one we want. Don't want Gods of the Arena. That's the prequel show, which incidentally is, if you haven't seen it, it's very good, well worth watching. And I would say that it's the perfect complement to season 1. And if you have never seen this show, you should watch Gods of the Arena first, because technically, really, that in the running order, that really should have been season 1. And that was a way of them continuing production whilst waiting for Andy Whitfield to recover from his illness. I mean, we'll discuss that more in detail when we do the final stream next week. So, yeah. So let's get into it. I just want to get the right credits up here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so, sorry, episode 10, Party Favors. So Party Favor, which is the one that comes after this, directed by Chris Martin Jones. My apology. Brent Fletcher and Miranda Kwok are the two other writers, apart from Stephen Esther Knight, who, of course, is the creator and overseeing the whole thing. So, all right, well, we'll talk about Hula first. So, yeah, okay, let's get into it. So, we kind of open on the Ludus, the training, and we've got the two Germanic brothers training, one of whom is called Agron, who we're going to get to learn a lot more about. But we're not with them for very long. They don't get much screen time, because pretty soon we cut to a scene with Navia and Crixus. Crixus finally is back on the training ground of the Ludus, and he's back to training. Meanwhile, Lycinia is, I think this is the scene where they're picking which mask to wear in order to facilitate, favors of a sexual nature, one might say. So the House of Batiatus is becoming known for satisfying people's salacious delights, and various high members of society, including women, are now coming up to pick not only the slave that they want to indulge with, but also the mask that they want to choose to wear in order to hide their identity, which is what this scene is all about. And Spartacus is to satisfy Lycinia, who is the character that we see there. Lycinia is a woman of high social standing back in Capua. So again, Batiatus's wife, Lucretia, is again sort of fostering allies. And it's at this point that Inside Man's favorite character and actress, Lithia, arrives. And there's immediate tension here. And I love the dialogue in this scene, because it's all about one-upmanship. And, she's kind of jealous. She's immediately jealous that Lycinia appears to be kind of sliding into the spot that was hers with Batiatus's wife. This is also an episode which heavily suggests, as the still currently depicts, that Batiatus and Batiatus's wife and Lithia have a sort of intimate relationship. It's quite a messy, emotional relationship as well, and we'll come back to that. So Spartacus is given a new slave. The slave has been instructed to sleep with him in his cell. This character, incidentally, we have not met before. The character in question is played by actress Katrina Law, an absolutely stunningly beautiful woman on and off the screen. I think if there was a woman this beautiful, I think the last person she would be offered to first is one of the gladiators for a bit of nookie. It feels like this woman would not, in reality, probably wouldn't have been offered up to Spartacus for fun. But it's a TV show, so it's fine. We will buy into it. Spartacus refuses to sleep with her.
I'm actually not so sure about that.
What, you think they might have been offered the most gorgeous woman?
I remember reading somewhere, I don't remember why, but I remember reading somewhere that high society, the women of high society, considered gladiators higher men, if you get my meaning.
Right, so, but she's also a really beautiful slave, so that ties in with the women of high society maybe wanting to sleep with one of them to see what it's like. What I'm saying is he's offered a really gorgeous slave, like of unbelievable beauty. I'm not sure that now she's arrived at the house of Batiatus, the character we haven't seen before, even in the context of this show. I'm not sure first dibs on her would necessarily go to Spartacus, although he is.
I get what you're saying. You're probably right about that because when slave trades tend to filter out what you might call the beauty, because they tend to fetch higher prices from certain, houses that deal with stuff like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, you might be onto something there, but
But
a gladiator, although a gladiator was what you might call an infame, technically speaking, they also weren't at the same time.
Yeah. Well, this character, who, as I said, we haven't met before up to this point, is called Mira, and she comes back to Lucretia, who asks quite specifically, how big was Spartacus's peni once engorged? She wants all the gossip, and she says, well, he wouldn't sleep with me. Now, in the interim to this, there are also scenes with Spartacus and Varro bonding even further as brothers. They're very close, we can see now. Asher is told he's not to return to the arena by Batiatus, and he's extremely disappointed, even though he's finally got the brace off of his leg. So Crixus continuing his relationship.
Also, he's very quick to get. He wants to get back to training, even though he's not ready, not healed up yet. But he can't take it. He's going nuts, man.
There's a scene, isn't there, with the medicus, where the medicus says 1, perhaps 2 weeks, and he says tomorrow. Tomorrow. But that would be a bad idea. Grips him by the throat. Tomorrow then.
Yeah.
So it's amazing what you can convince your doctors in Roman times to agree to.
Plus, also, Crixus has lost the gladiators' respect too, because now they're making fun of him.
Yeah, and the two brothers fancy their chances, and he knocks them both on their asses.
Wow.
So he's returning to form. Navarro also pays Asher to send letters to his wife because he hasn't heard anything. So the slave is put before Lucretia, who wants to know why Spartacus didn't want to sleep with her. So he asks her to disrobe, at which point we get full frontal nudity and the line, tits, arse, and cunt are all without deformity. What a line.
Right there. The problem is in the bitch. It's like, oh, damn.
Yeah. So Crixus, meanwhile, is summoned to pound Domina / Lucretia. So they're sort of having regular, fairly brutal sex now. She then forces him to snuggle after coitus. And you can see that Crixus is like very, very uncomfortable about this. Obviously does it out of duty, and it's what's expected of him because he's a slave, but he's not happy about it. Then we have a scene with Polonius meeting in secret Asher, and it appears that Asher might be about to betray Batiatus because, of course, he's now been told he can't go back to the arena, so he does have cause, and appears to be sort of negotiating an arrangement with Polonius for information, or possibly leading to Batiatus's betrayal.
Oh, that's a small thing too. Remember, when she's talking to Crixus, she's like, "Oh, as you're about to die, what were you thinking about?" And like, all the woman I loved, and thing is, she thought he was looking up at her as he was dying. He wasn't.
Sammy says, "Do a flip." I'm not sure we're capable of such thing. Yeah. Anyway, the inside man has arrived. How goes it, inside man? He's don't know if his audio is working yet. Okay, let me continue. So this is quite funny as well. So I put here, so you got the Polonius Asher scene, scales are in the balance. Then we have the first bait and switch in history. And Crixus and Navia continue. There's lots of naked rudeness. So the first bait and switch in history is basically that Lithia thinks she's going to sleep with Crixus. That's what she wants. And Lucretia is incredibly upset by this because, of course, she considers Crixus her personal sex toy, so she's not having it. She freaks out. So Crixus and Naevia continue their relationship. Then we have the naked rudeness scene where basically Spartacus is told he's going to sleep with this woman of higher standing, which it's set up to be Licinia, because Licinia is asked to sleep with Spartacus. So they cover Spartacus in gold, give him a mask, and I mean he literally is covered in gold, head to toe, including the pubis and everything. It's all, you know.
Yeah, be careful with these screenshots.
Yeah, I can imagine. I imagine you were quite limited in choice. The woman is presented before him, also wearing a mask of a god. There's major poundage. This goes on for quite a long time, so it's a fairly long, rumpy-pumpy scene. Again, more scenes with Navarro and.
Well, he thinks his wife is dead.
Yeah, that's right, and because Asher went to the house, found no one there. So the wife has gone. The wife and child have gone missing. Then suddenly, during the sex scene, it's revealed that Ilithia is actually sleeping with Spartacus. Licinia appears, stating the wife of Alegatus sleeping with Spartacus. God, that's going to set tongues wagging. And Ilithia completely loses her shit, grabs Licinia, smashes her skull into the floor, and kills her. So this whole thing was a setup so that Lucretia could have something on Ilithia, who prior to this really kind of has the power when she comes to the house of Batiatus. And Lucretia wanted to reverse that. That's still the case. She now has something even more on her because she killed the wife of a Roman higher up. So yeah, it's an episode where a lot of shit happens. Let's be honest. I don't know that there's much to talk about necessarily from a historical context here, but let's talk about the plot and the story beats in general.
Gladiator does not fear death.
Gladiator's virtues extend beyond the arena. As love.
And welcome, Inside Man. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, apologies for that. I had a little bit of a microphone issue, so I had to do a little bit of rewiring and bits and pieces. So, but nonetheless, what I was going to say about this was at least we start getting a little bit more information about Crassus. So, and his, him being part of the Spartacus story. And there's constant references to him being, the richest man in Rome and how influential he is. So I'm glad that we did get that.
And I mean, Crassus is a real person. He is one of the guys that was sent after Spartacus, which comes you get to see more in the next season.
And part of the triumvirate with Pompey and Caesar as well.
But that didn't come. That didn't come till later.
Until much later, yeah. And of course, his death, which I think, depending on which historical source or which source you decide to use as fact, but it's widely said that his death was having molten gold poured into his mouth. Whether that's completely true or whether that's just a little bit of propaganda from the era, we can't really say for certain.
So we now have a dead higher up in the house. Spartacus nearly throttled Lithia at one point.
Yeah, because he hates her.
Because he can't stand her. Yeah. And so Batiatus has a bit of a conversation with him.
Also, it's amazing too how Spartacus is still showing more loyalty to Batiatus, and and he's like, "Oh, Spartacus, we're so close, and you honor me after you killed his wife, you son of a bitch."
Yeah, which of course we know, but he doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, this is, of course, you said I was to lie with Crixus. Why did you give me Spartacus?
Exactly. Why?
So the thing about this as well is that she knows that Lucretia has betrayed her, but Lucretia is like, well, it's brought us closer. We're permanently connected now. So they're getting rid of Licinia's body as well. But she's so manipulative, such an evil woman.
And Lucy Lawless, so give her credit, just the way she's looking at her and just her eyes are glowing and just like,
I know.
It's like Lucy Lawless did a great job this episode. And then she kisses her. I'm like, damn.
Well.
She was the best. She was definitely the best thing in this episode.
Right there, so I kept that. Look at her face, like, like I won, and like you're mine, and I know you're mine.
Yeah, it's a great progression of the story. We get I think that the key things in this episode are the relationship with Spartacus and Varro, their bond and their friendship gets a lot of time in this episode, rightly so, because of what happens next episode, which we'll talk about shortly. Asher again still being told he's never to go back to the arena. He feels always kind of like a sort of dog compared to the rest of the men. So
also,
he's never happy.
And plus, he betrays Badiatus again by, he's like telling him in the market, you've been warned. He's like, well, he's like, he's like, he's going to move against me. Yeah, do yourself a favor. And he visits his whorehouse every Wednesday. Everyone knows that. Well, this time, don't go yourself. And then, of course, he's like, I'm the one who's got to hire the mercenary to kill you. And so he warns them. He's there to kill him. And then, of course, they bring Badiatus somebody else's head.
So, okay. Other key story beats as well are, I guess, the relationship with Lithia and Lucretia and how that crazy narcissistic dynamic works. Batiatus and Spartacus, and as Blue said, he's still paying Batiatus quite a lot of respect here, and now is kind of slipping into that role.
Exactly. You're such a great gladiator. It's like, one, because my dominance, I'm only so good because of you, Batiatus. All you flatter me, buddy. Like, boy, that it's like the ass kissing, but he's just like playing up to Batiatus's ego.
Yeah,
it's definitely paying him lip service.
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah, there's some of that going on for sure. Quite a lot of sex in this episode. Let's be honest. A lot of sex. A lot of
both episodes were the hardest since I've been talking to you guys to cover. These stills were very carefully captured.
I mean, you could have called this episode Jason and the Golden Peni.
I mean, to her credit, every time Lucy Lawless was talking, she's always topless or like she has a see-through shirt. So I'd be very careful on getting neck up only. Like Lucy, give her credit. She has no problem showing off the girls.
Which you could call the episode 50 Shades of Grey and Red.
Yeah. Or you could call the episode Wonga Wonga Nipple Pinchy. The story beats are all really great. Everything here adds something more to the characters' journeys. I think it's a very strong episode. This is the beautiful slave in question. I mean, the casting of that woman. I remember when I first saw her on the screen, and I was just like, God, who's that? Just like this kind of perfect, pretty face. She still looks amazing. Katrina Law.
Plus I like to Spartacus. Like, okay, was something wrong with me? I'm not beautiful. He goes, no, I don't want you if you've been forced to be here. I want you because you want to be here.
Right. She's a big fan, by the way. Very popular on the convention circuit, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'll bet she is.
Yeah. So, well, let's. Anyone want to say anything else about the story or anything historical before we move on?
I'm not exactly sure if Crassus really did have a cousin named Lacinia or not. I certainly am not aware of any.
I checked on all those facts already, and I think the answer to that is no. So the historical.
However, there was a certain Lacinia that Marcus Crassus was kind of involved with, and it almost became a scandal. And it had to do with how he made his money. Now, the show make reference to Marcus Crassus. He's the richest man in Rome, and that may well be true. But what the show doesn't tell you is how Crassus made his money. Would you like me to tell you how Crassus made his money?
It was through property. It was any kind of destruction of Rome. I mean, I know there was a fire. We're not talking about the Great Fire in Nero's time, but I know there was a fire where he bought up an awful lot of land, but yeah, it was in essence, I guess he was a property developer.
Well, I was going to mention two things. One was through proscription, because Marius and his allies, including the Caesars, proscribed.
Of course, yeah.
Proscribed against his enemies. And when Marius died and Sulla came in with Crassus at his side, Crassus was a legate for Sulla, and they fought a battle at the Colline Gate, and Crassus commanded the right wing of that army to break their way into Rome. And when after that was done, there was a new round of proscriptions, except they were proscribing the proscribers. And Crassus made most of his fortune through taking money from people. He targeted people through this proscription. He would put people on the list, not because they were disloyal or because they fought against Sulla, but because he wanted their money, he wanted their land. As far as the firers are concerned, they didn't have a fire department in those days, so
yes, they
had
did.
his own private fire brigade.
The Vigilis.
So I'm not sure, but there may have been instances where the fire brigade was setting fires just so that they could come and put them out. Or
Mark Plato is correct
you have to pay
about
us.
Crassus. He's 100% correct. I researched it myself.
Welcome, Leroy.
Thank you. Sorry, I haven't been on much, but I've been very busy.
No, that's fine. No need to apologize. Sorry. So to continue, Inside Man, please elaborate on your point.
The Vigilis, they were kind of a almost like a police department come fire department, and they were stationed throughout various sections of Rome, and they would deal with any fires, any outbreak of fires, because we look at Rome. The most that we think of Rome is that everything was made of marble or stone, but it wasn't. It was made of wattle and daub, which is basically a sort of a wicker woven framework with clay. So they would, they're very, very combustible, because of the amount of fires that they had, whether they be small or large. There was this fear that there was going to be something, there was going to be a major catastrophe at some time, and there were quite a few fires. I know that
Rome gets very hot in the summer, doesn't it? Very hot.
Yeah.
Bear in mind that in those days, London was 1 million people around 1800. So Rome at this time was out of 1 million people, or close to 1 million people. The world, at least the European world, would not see a city that big until London 1800.
Yeah, I mean that's a crazy thing to think about, that it would take 1800 and some years before we would see another city of this size. I mean, it would be hard for us to really genuinely understand the size of Rome in comparison to other smaller cities of the time. We do see, we see Rome now as a bustling city, but it really was a metropolis. It was huge, vast.
It was, and also something Caesar Augustus said is Caesar Augustus said, "I found Rome a city of brick. I left it a city of marble."
Marble, yeah, that's a great quote.
I think it's safe to say that Rome was built on the backs of slaves. That's why we had guys like Spartacus.
Okay, so anyone else want to say anything else about the story of this episode or the history before we move on? Only those 2 points, please.
Why did Spartacus treat Mira so bad? I mean,
well, don't forget, because the love of his life was his wife. So he's not.
But life goes on, man. I mean,
yeah, but that's coming later. At the moment, he's still very connected.
Yeah, like I said, but he didn't. I don't think he treated her badly, Roy. He just said, he's like, I don't want somebody who's been commanded to be here. It's like, if you want to be here with me, be here with me. But he's like, you're being ordered to be here. And he's like, I don't want that.
And I almost feel sorry for Asher. Keyword: almost feel sorry for him.
Well, we're coming on to the characters and actors next.
Oh, she fucked Lacania up real bad.
Yeah.
That whole storyline is.
In fact, I'd say in this episode, that was my favorite scene right there, where she basically bashed Lacania's skull in.
I was gonna say, it was hard to share it because she's topless while she's doing it. So.
Yeah.
Wait, I was complaining, trust me, but capturing a screenshot of that.
All right, let's move on. We're going to dive into this section next.
I swear to be burned, chained, beaten.
I would argue that I mean, it's very, very much an ensemble show, of course, always is. But I would argue quite strongly this is Lucy Lawless's episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because she gets 4 great scenes at least.
Yeah.
Loads of delicious dialogue, and then of course her own scheme kind of backfires with unexpected results, which in effect put her in an even stronger position against Lithia. First, she got the blackmailing information that she slept with Spartacus and how bad that would be if that rumor went around Rome. But now she also knows that she killed somebody. So, yeah, and we're going to see the outcome of that in the next episode, which we'll discuss. So, yeah, I think it's Lucy Lawless's episode, character-wise.
Lance, when I first saw this episode, the first time I saw this, my thing is, does the character of Lucretia, does she really think her husband is stupid? I mean, when Alithia made her intentions to sleep with Crixus known, and she blows into a rage, I mean, Batiatus knew Lucretia had to at this point known Lucretia was banging Crixus.
So right now,
he wasn't even upset about it.
I think right now he doesn't know though, because the thing is, she's always doing like when she's sleeping with him. She was, my husband's out of he's at the market for the next 4 or 5 hours and cuddle with me, and she's always doing it when Batiatus is not around. So I think at this point in the storyline, I think he actually doesn't know. And plus, remember previous episodes when she wanted to get pregnant, she wasn't trying to get pregnant by her husband. She was trying to get pregnant by Crixus. So I think Batiatus, like it's one thing when they're sleeping with their servants with each other openly, but it's like, but she's always doing it with Crixus when no one else is around. It's a big secret.
Yeah, and plus, you know, she's definitely there's more than just, you know, having sex with a slave with her. There is a real attachment there.
Yeah, well, she actually does love him. Yeah.
Yeah. We get some new characters, of course, Katrina Law, who we've already mentioned.
As Mira, and also the German brothers, Duro and Agron.
Yeah, they get a little bit more time. Played by Daniel Ferrigal and Onde Cunningham. And then we also get a little bit of stuff with the character of Hector, played by Tim Foley. Of course, I always love Salonius when he's in scenes. He's just in the one scene, but always great actor. And quite a bit with Asher going on in this episode as well. And this episode sets up that Asher's going to betray Batiatus, because Batiatus has said he's never going back to the arena. Batiatus meets with Salonius in secret. I have information to give to receptive ears. Great line.
Asher, you mean?
Yeah. Asher meets up with Salonius.
Plus, he got to get paid too.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, he's not quite gonna give up everything for free. This thing as well with her wanting to be held by Crixus. Again, I already said 2 episodes ago, you could see she's in love with him. Now that they're taking that narrative, establishing that narrative even further. But Blue, your favorite character in this episode? Anything you want to say about any of the cast?
I mean, as you guys would say, fantastic cast. I actually still like Manu Bennett and Crixus, only because the scene coming up with him and Navia, because remember because he's so into his own mind and his paranoia that he looks over, he sees her touching the guard's hand, and automatically he thinks she's flirting, and he's like pissed off, like, why'd you do that for? Not realizing she stole his key to be closer to Crixus. And he does give that line. He's like, I'm sorry I ever questioned you. Like my beating heart is yours. And she stole the guard's key because she wanted to actually have sex with him and kiss him instead of being through bars. And I just felt it was just because he's so so paranoid and so like not being a champion anymore, he was doubting her love and then apologizing like, I'm sorry I ever doubted my love for you and your love for me. It'll never happen again. And I thought that was a great, powerful scene with these two characters because she
that's nice when she says you mistake intent, and he thinks that she had to sleep with the guard, which didn't happen.
Yeah.
The guard tries to take retribution but realizes he can't.
Yes. I definitely like. For me, everyone's great, but I like Christmas because he's going through so much, and he calls him the pup bear in his teeth. He's still beating the shit out of these newer recruits, and he's still showing his dominance. And plus, they're all laughing. They're still laughing at Crixus behind his back too, because he's the former champion, and he's got to earn that title back.
What did we think of the performance of Brooke Harmon in this?
Oh, you mean Lacania?
I
like her. I mean, she along with Mira, played by Katrina Law. I think that's a tie of my favorite characters. I mean, she really likes Spartacus. Oh, actually, they both like Spartacus, and the way she after Lucretia maneuvered Spartacus and Alithia together. The way, again, this is my favorite scene where Alithia just went batshit crazy and busted the poor woman's skull.
Yeah. Well, we're coming on to favorite scenes later, so
yeah. But she and Mira,
acting of this
she
lady.
and Mira are probably my two favorite characters. I like Mira because I think I kind of felt sorry for her because Spartacus doesn't accept her yet. In fact, if you watch the entire show, he never does. But I like Lacania because Lacania is, she tends to not like Alithia very much. And like Alithia always reminds Lucretia of her station, while Lacania reminds Alithia of her station and what and the embarrassment her husband went through because of Spartacus. So
yeah, there's a good cycle there. I think she's like a younger version of Lucy Lawless's character as well, this woman.
And she's cute too. I mean,
indeed. Inside Man, what do you think?
I've yet to see any ugly women in here, but this is Mira and Lacania.
Ugly women are not allowed in this universe. Inside Man, what do you think of the performance of Brooke Harmon in this episode?
Very good. Very good. I actually thought every performance was really good, actually, and dare I say it, I am actually warming to Alithia. However, only when she stops doing that silly giggling, Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice type acting. That's she actually can act, and I wish that she had been directed maybe slightly differently. Because she can act. I'll take everything back that I said previously.
It would make a good AI voice.
Just. But in terms of the acting, I thought this was a terrific episode. A really, really terrific episode. And
I agree.
And I genuinely, it was one of those that I was so immersed in. That I was actually getting quite sort of pumped up watching this episode, especially the murder, the killing, when Alithia goes absolutely bonkers. I thought that was terrific, really
not
terrific.
Bonkers, that shit
Lucy
crazy.
Lawless, I mean Lucy Lawless though I thought was outstanding in this episode, absolutely outstanding.
Well, Inside Man, it's like I said before, John Hannah and Lucy Lawless, they've come a long way from The Mummy and Xena Warrior Princess. I call it the Robin Williams, Denzel Washington technique, because if you remember what I said earlier in a couple episodes, the reason why Robin Williams won an Oscar for Good Will Hunting, and the reason why Denzel Washington won an Oscar for Training Day, because they did roles that no one expected them. No one has ever seen them do roles like that before. Everyone remembers John Hannah, who plays Badiatas from The Mummy. Everyone remembers Lucy Lawless from Xena Warrior Princess. They never expected them to play the kind of characters that they are portraying at, and they do so well at it as well. That's why I'm very surprised that Spartacus Blood and Sand was never nominated for an Emmy. If it was, it should have been. It should have gone to John Hannah and Lucy Lawless.
Too much nudity in it. There wasn't. I don't.
The kind of show is that's why.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I agree with Leo. They were underrated, but that's how the industry is. It's like this kind of show. Like Lance said, all this blood and nudity and swearing and like sex going on. They're not going to give these actors any kind of credence.
Yeah.
So. Okay, Darth, we haven't heard anything from you about the actors or the characters for this episode.
Well, I guess I'm just going to run the risk of parroting, I guess, because I think Lucy stole it. I think there's no question about that. It's going to be my favorite scene. We haven't got favorite scenes yet, but that's where I'm going with it. We haven't mentioned the German guys. I thought that the angle of the German guys and their adjustment to the Ludus and fighting with Crixus, I thought that's interesting. It's not the main event of the episode, of course, but I thought it was interesting.
It pays off later, I think.
Yeah, they get just enough screen time to remind you who they are and that they're still around.
I didn't really like the overall plot of the episode, honestly, but it was good. It was good drama. The thing with Lakinia was I could see something like that happening, but the death in the Ludus, that would be such a scandal. Yeah, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're getting rid of her body, and it's like
I know. It would be such a scandal.
Yeah, there's a whole thing going to happen there.
But, I mean, there is a big cliff on the side.
There is a big cliff on the side. But if it got stuck halfway down and you could sort of see it pierced on a peak,
who's that down there?
Probably not be good. So
I think people are being a little bit hard on Spartacus with the scene in Mira. It's like, well, he's not really being mean to Mira when he declines her offer. That's not being mean.
He should have hit her.
No.
Okay, I've started a poll. You can pick one to go on a dinner date with. Who would you pick? It's
definitely Lakinia.
This is a dancing poll, right?
It's
you are such a perv,
It's a dinner date poll. Okay, shush. Right, we're gonna move on. So next topic is, well, is there enough? Is there too much? What do we think about this?
Others are said to be ravenous beasts.
Make him do it again.
Let's talk about the violence first. The violence in this episode really is the death of Lakinia at the hands of Lithia when she basically slams her head into the side of the water bath thing in the villa.
Did you count the number of times?
I think it's 4, isn't it? Slams her head 4 times. I think it's 4. I think it was 4.
I think once was enough to kill Lakinia.
Well, pretty
Lithia like that shit crazy.
That's a pretty violent scene. Everything else is just kind of fighting and stuff.
Good makeup job too. Good makeup.
Good makeup job. You see it just enough, just long enough.
And Lance, I did not see this coming at all. When I first saw this episode, I did not see that coming. It
was a good. Yeah, I remember the first time I watched it. It was a good surprise. It came out of nowhere. Good storytelling. Then let's talk about the boom boom in the room. Quite a lot of boom boom in the room going on in this episode. We've got there's various characters kind of conducting illicit liaisons. We have Lucretia and Crixus getting it on. She's getting the full Crixus treatment. And we have Crixus also trying to snatch time with Navia, bit of smooching and all the rest of it. Then we have the full-on mask action sequence of Major Pounding. I did wonder. I wonder if the actors had body doubles for those scenes, or if that's.
I was wondering that,
and I wondered if that's a body double for Andy Whitfield, or if he did go full naked, golden peni. Then the other thing, of course, is we get full frontal nudity of Katrina Law, which was terrible. It's a big shock, and I had to recover myself for some many minutes.
Katrina Law had a nice body, full front.
I think you're failing to pick up on my British dry sense of humor there, right? And then we also get Muchos Lucy Lawless breastage. So it's a lot of nakedness. There's a lot of sex. I feel History Bro missed out on this episode, but so going down in order, your comments about the sex and violence in this episode. Blue,
as I said to you guys, this episode and next one are very, very hard to make stills, but I'm also very proud of Lucy. Is Lucy has no problem showing off what she's got. No, for this show, it's it's perfect for this show. It's not. It doesn't. Any other show, it will be overdone. But for this, we're 9 episodes in, so it's just we're all used to it by now. It fits the tone of this show, and yeah, I mean the subplot was would Spartacus be able to last long? That's why Mira was sent to him for, and he had no problem with his longevity. So,
Darth, your comments on the sex and violence, please. Hello.
Yes. It's about what you expect from the show. This show wouldn't be interesting if it were anything less, I suppose.
I know.
But you're right about the fact that it didn't get rewarded because it has this content too, which is unfortunate. So I kind of feel that the show might have dialed it down a bit so that it could get rewarded, but at the same time, the extravagance of the show is part of what makes the show what it is. As far as the historicity of it, who the hell knows? I wouldn't be surprised if people did stuff like that in Roman households. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I mean, we're not talking about the history now. It's just whether we feel whether we feel it's appropriate, etc. Is it warranted? Is it well done, and so forth. Inside Man, your deep thought analysis on the golden pubis of the show.
Well, I don't know about the golden pubis. I don't know about the golden pubis, but I love the violence. Yeah, give me more violence, more sex. I want it in oodles now. I want piles more. Yeah, loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was terrific. A really good balance, actually. And everything seemed necessary as well. It wasn't just the violence, but the sex. Everything was necessary to the story and the eventual outcomes of various threads, let's just say.
Yeah, I agree. Leroy.
We're going, Leroy.
I agree with everyone. I think the violence and the sex was just right, considering that the name of the episode is called Horror.
Yeah.
So the level of the zoom and the boom boom and the Friday the 13th type violence is perfect. And
it's funny you mentioned Zoom because I've just got one. There we go.
Oh,
wow.
Continue.
But like I said, I mean, the one I did not see coming was like Kenny getting a head bashed in. That was something.
Also, the context behind it too, all because she was laughing at her. Like, you're laughing at me, stop laughing, and she's so slighted in this disrespect by being laughed at for what, because she's been set up, and then she just lashes out at her.
Yeah, it is. It's quite a brutal episode, both for sexual content and for violence. But the bait and switch, and like I said, this is the oldest bait and switch in history. Is in this episode. Is well done. It's a good plot narrative, which of course leads to Lithia kind of spiraling in terms of her mental health, and I like that. So sets all that up really well. Yeah. Okay. Anyone want to say anything else about that before we move on?
Just a small thing, Lance. I love the fact that Lucretia, she also did it because how dare anybody want Crixus but her. That's why she did it for, because of course, and she's playing off to Badiatus like, oh, why are you so upset for? Because just give Crixus to her, it's not a big deal. Well, because it's the principle, she insults us. Like, no, that said, Badiatus doesn't know, like, why are you so pissed off? She's destroying stuff. Why are you so mad about Crixus for? What's the big deal? He's just no gladiator. He doesn't know that. She's like, no, only she can have him.
Blue collar. He knows. You can tell by the look on his face when he asks her. So her choice is what flies you into a rage. He can tell. Yeah. He knows his wife is fucking Crixus. He knows. The reason why he hasn't said anything about it because he loves his wife and he wants her to be happy. I mean, I mean, the only difference is
Yeah.
he sleeps with other women in front of her at her encouragement, other slave girls. So, but
Well, she also sleeps with the slave girls as well. Don't forget.
That's what I say. It's one thing having an open marriage in front of each other versus behind your back. That's why I said this whole scene. It's hard to tell, but
same room only. Inside Man knows what I'm talking about.
that's why I say he's like this. Yeah.
Let's get on to this.
They cheer for blood, and they shall have it.
Okay, my favorite line in this episode has to be Lucretia when she says, looking at the body of Mira, and it just sort of tit, arse, and cunt are all without deformity. What a brilliant line. Favorite moment in the episode. Oh, I mean, yeah, I think the ending is very powerful. The bait and switch sort of moment after the reveal is, and then the fact that now Lithia is kind of putty in Lucretia's arms. Yeah, her whole freak out, killing Lacinia is it's pretty. That's a pretty good that moment. It's hard to top that moment in this episode. There are a lot of other good moments, but I like that one. The scene when Asher's talked down to by baddie artists in terms of him ever returning to the arena is a good moment as well. And Asher coming back onto the sand of the Ludus, and Crixus talks down to him immediately. No one takes him seriously. Also a good moment. So there's Blue.
Oh yeah, like as I was mentioning, this part right here, because the way he says the dialogue, and she's like, "What'd you think about that? Welcome to the afterlife, but in the love of a goddess." Right there. And the thing is, and she's like, "Oh, Crixus, I just hold me. I'm always yours." And like, yeah, he wasn't looking at you. That's why it's my unfair line for, because in her mind, he's so in love with her. It's like, no, as I'm about to die, I'm looking at the actual woman I actually love, and that's so impactful because it just shows his devotion to his true love versus like I'm laying with you because I have to, not because I love you. And it's just between these two are here. So yeah.
You're such a romantic, Blue Collar.
Telling you, man, it's like this poor bastard. He has to keep sleeping with Lucy Lawless. I feel bad for him. Yeah.
Well, blue collar. If I may say something, what happens to Crixus is no different what happened to so many of my ancestors in American slavery. I mean, when people think of what was done to black women in American slavery, no one talks about how a lot of black men were also used as slaves by the mistresses. It's no different. So that's why it's so easy to feel sorry for Crixus, because as slaves, you don't have a choice in the matter of who you sleep with. You sleep with who the master tells you sleep with. If not, you're dead.
Yeah, like that's been the theme of this whole show, Spartacus, Crixus, and as I said, especially this moment as he was about to die. It's like he looked up at the woman he actually loved, and it's just that's such an impactful moment because he did think in that moment he was going to die, and he's prepared to face death. And before I die, I mean this guy's been a gladiator his entire life. He's been trained to be a soldier and like a dog. Before I die, I experienced love, and it wasn't with you, the woman I'm laying with right now, and she doesn't realize that. I love that subplot.
Darth, you got a favorite line / moment? They can be different or the same.
Yeah, my favorite line, I think, because it really did make me react out loud, was the when they were showing the sands and Varro and Spartacus were standing there, and Crixus arrived on the sands. The undefeated champion of Capri returns, and Spartacus says, "I think you should choose a new name."
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a funny line on the one hand, but on the other hand, it really kind of shows that Spartacus, it may be kind of going to Spartacus' head too.
Yeah, a little bit. I think.
He never did beat Crixus.
That's
Crixus
true.
is undefeated against Spartacus. So I thought that was a very dishonest moment. As far as the best moment, the best scene, I think has to be the end, toward the end, not the killing of Lacinia, and that's not what I mean. I mean way Lucretia tries to take control of the situation, it's just delicious Machiavellianism, absolutely delicious, and how she just manipulates this whole situation, saying we can make this work in our favor. This isn't a disaster. This is an opportunity. And I thought it was just
makes us closer.
Yeah, that's all really good. Leroy, favorite line or moment?
Ooh, favorite lines. This Lance, like you, there's so many. I have to say the ending when after Spartacus apologizes to Batiatus, he says, "It is I who owe the apology." Batiatus says, "Spartacus, your loyalty honors this house," because it tells me that, even though no one has I haven't forgotten what Batiatus did to Spartacus' wife and everything. But
that's a good scene. That's a good scene.
It almost shows that he has a sense of gratitude and humanity, even though he's still a two-faced, greedy, low-down son of a, and so that I have to say those words. That's my favorite sentence right there. It says, "Your loyalty honors this ludus," because if you saw his father, because Batiatus' father was the same way, but a much better person. If you saw the prequel, now my favorite scene, I'm gonna have to say that's a tie between Alethea bashing Lacania's skull in and Batiatus screwing one of the women and tells Lucretia that Spartacus gave no pause and says that our house dog is broken, and she says, "You're wise to put down his bitch." I thought those two scenes, that's a tie between those two scenes. Those were my favorite.
All right. Inside Man?
In terms of favorite line, I think I'm going to have to agree with Blue, actually. When Lucretia says to Crixus, what were you thinking when you looked up at me? And he says, I was thinking about death, knowing that I knew the love of a goddess. I think it's just terrific. Really, really terrific. And as Blue and everybody else has said, her being completely oblivious and quite narcissistic about thinking that this is all about her. He's talking about her all the time. In terms of my favorite scene, it has to be when Alethea really does lose her shit and goes berserk.
Yeah.
I love that scene, but I love, as Darth Plato was saying, I just love the way it was engineered. The whole sequence was engineered. It was very, very engineered and meticulously engineered, in fact, for there being an outcome that was going to fall in their favor, in Batiatus and Lucretia's favor. Obviously, she didn't seem to think that Alethea was going to be capable of something so horrific and so wild. But
she was shocked.
I thought it was a great scene. And me along with it. It was a jaw-dropping moment. You didn't think this little sort of wisp of a girl was going to be capable of such violence.
And it wasn't just once. It was just like,
it's terrific. Really, really good. And I thought she really came into her own in that, in this episode.
I
liked her. So I'll take back everything that I said about her.
Maybe we'll have a spin-off for Law and Order Rome.
Law and Order Rome. That would actually be a pretty interesting.
I like Lance. So the fact that Inside Man didn't like this character until she brutally committed murder. Now she's his favorite. All right, well, that's where your line is drawn.
Ratings for this episode out of 10. I give it a give this episode a solid 8. What the fuck was that? What's that noise?
Sorry, I was trying to censor my phone. My bad.
Just mute yourself if you need to when you're doing that stuff. Right. So I'll give this 8 out of 10. Blue.
Yeah, I'll go 8.5. like there's so many subplots going on. Remember a small little thing with Asher and Spartacus. Remember Spartacus paid actually Mira. He did send her on one little side quest, which pays off the next episode. So there's a lot going on in this episode.
Okay, Darth.
I give it an 8.
Leroy.
9.5.
Ooh, okay. Inside Man.
Yeah, it's an easy 8 for me.
Easy. Okay. Fantastic.
I guess I'm the lone voice in the void.
That's episode 4. You're not the lone voice. 8 out of 10 is still a good score. What are you talking about? Right. Okay. Let's move on. So we're going to go to episode 10.
Party favors.
Party favors indeed. Spartacus fights in an exhibition match for Numerius's birthday. This is the son of the kind of local magistrate. Crixus is intent on blood. So
it's ready for that once.
The spoilt kid who we met previously in I think the previous episode to this one. So episode 8, sorry. This is episode 10. But we open on a battle in the arena, and the reason we get this scene is we show Navarro and Spartacus working together to defeat an opponent with their combined skill. In a particular gruesome scene, they wrap a chain around the opponent's neck and they pull their head clean off, which is pretty interesting.
How realistic was that?
Well, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
So you can talk about that during the violence segment. So yeah, various the Germanic brothers, I think, are also in this battle in the background going on. I guess it's like one big group against another big group, and then while this is all being observed from the upper echelons by the higher ups, and we learn that Lithia has been taken unwell and has decided to stay at the Ludus. They're surprised not to see her at the games. And Spartacus and Varro are victorious. They return. They're treated as heroes by the other gladiators. And Crixus is determined still to face off against Spartacus. Navarro, meanwhile, still has heard nothing from his wife until there she is. She arrives with
She's not dead.
Empty purse and lack of coin, and finally gets to speak to her. Various other things happen in this episode, particularly between Navarro and his wife. It's tense, but ultimately Navarro agrees in a later scene that he will honor the son that she's going to have and love it as his own. Or is that this scene where he
yeah,
it's this scene.
It is this scene. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
and that's very important for something later. So they're reconnected again. Seems like they're all good. Lithia, meanwhile, is kind of rather mentally disturbed. She's not doing that great. But a birthday party is organized for the magistrate's son. And one of the things that happens in that birthday party, which is quite important, is that Lithia decides to give herself to the son as a birthday present. So she joins him in the bath, indeed. Yeah, I wonder what I would do if a woman like that suddenly stepped into the bath and I was that age and a virgin. And then, of course, what we don't realize has happened in that scene, which is important, but we learn later, is that she's actually done that to manipulate him. She's planted seeds in his ear. Now, I think it's quite good that we don't see that scene. Here, Navia is accosted by one of Batiatus's guards, who we saw in the last scene, because
where's my key?
Yeah, she stole keys from him so she could be with Crixus. And he threatens to lay hands on her, but she basically says, I'm property of the Domina, so if you do that, you're going to be in severe problems. Meanwhile, Lucretia and Batiatus are plotting further, talking about how to manipulate the magistrate and so forth when he turns up. And hosting the party is big deal for them. It's going to secure their links. Next slide, please. solidify their kind of contacts and stuff like that. There's a bit of a nookie scene. The gladiators, meanwhile, continue to train. There's a bit more bonding with Navarro. We get a bit more with the brothers, who are constantly trying to best Crixus and not doing too well. And Lithia and Lucretia checking Crixus out as he's training. So she now seems to have calmed down a little bit. Yeah, the gladiators, you submitted like a fucking girl. Navarro's talking of what he's going to do when he gets out of here, which he expects to happen fairly soon, talking about his wife, the boy, and so on. And then Crixus, of course, the true champion, only dreams of the arena.
But Spartacus gets him right back, dude.
Indeed. Yeah. What does one dream of when he's no longer champion? Yeah. That's
he calls him a thief, too. See, well, you stole that title.
Yeah.
It's pretty extraordinary that Spartacus is even talking to Crixus like that, considering Spartacus could be dead last episode if it wasn't for
exactly.
Green.
You're right, Plato. I agree with you.
In fact,
Spartacus is summoned by Badiatus. We'll come back to that. And Badiatus is playing what appears to be checkers. And they talk about the upcoming party. Meanwhile, Crixus is getting it on with his lady. I think this is actually the first time they actually get to make love, if I remember rightly. I believe, because I think they only got kissed before, didn't they? Is this the first time they've been in the same space together alone? I think it is.
Yeah. No, it's the second time.
Second time? They won one time last episode. Hostman's Lounge has never seen Spartacus. Watch Gods of the Arena first, because that's the chronology order of the story, chronological order of the story. Awesome. Definitely watch that first, mate, and it is well worth seeing. Watch the first 3 episodes. Don't give up after episode 1. So definitely on par with Game of Thrones. The effects are not as good, but the story and the dialogue and characters are definitely good, if not better than some.
This was way before Game of Thrones.
Yeah, way before. Asher plotting further. Next slide, please.
He caught them.
Yeah. Yeah, he knows. That's right. He knows that Crixus and Navia have been together.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Badiatus and is getting quite drunk and sort of staying up and being all pally with Spartacus. Lucretia comes across them. She's not too happy about this. Sharing a drink with a slave. And he's like, I drink with the champion of Capua, this kind of thing. So, yeah.
Also, she mentions Crixus. It's funny you never raise a cup of Crixus. Man.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's all very fucked up, all this kind of psychology. Again, more talk about the party and so on. Meanwhile, the guard who lost his keys lays hands on Navia.
Mira.
And Mira. Yeah, thank you. Spartacus comes across him with this happening and decides to sort him out. Burns his face on the side of a torch, which is pretty effective. He claims the girl is a thief. Badiatus turns up and accuses Spartacus of overstepping his station.
What exactly did she steal, buddy? Nothing.
Yeah. Nothing of worth. Yeah, so my sexual dreams. Yeah, do not fucking speak. Yeah, he's not happy that Spartacus actually put his hands on one of his men.
His dialogue can be shit in my house.
Yeah, I know. I like his dialogue. I think it's good.
Exactly.
He gets all the best lines. Him and Lucretia get all the best lines. Yeah, lay hands on one of my guards again, and serious consequences. So they're back to training.
So he's right. If he gets away with that, then he can encourage other gladiators to think they can lay hands on guards too. He's absolutely right.
No, and then there could be like a big rebellion that would lead to the Third Civil War. You don't want that. So a bit more connection with Navarro and Spartacus, and then Magistrate Calabius arrives with his son's friends, the rather horsey-looking mother, which I noticed they cast. This sort of more kind of dowdy, less glamorous looking lady as the mum of the...
She ain't that bad looking.
No, she's fine, but she's not got the glamour of the younger sort of 90210 set. I think that's quite deliberate.
No problem wearing low-cut shirts, though. So
I think pretty soon after this, we have the scene with Lithia joining the lad in the bath.
Not yet.
But it's coming up. They're looking at, oh yeah, that's right. Spartacus has a bit of a moment with the kid. He's taken a liking to this kid. He could have killed him there. He could have thrown him off.
I thought too. So has anyone ever been fell off there? Well, just one time I can think of.
The one that Spartacus threw off.
Exactly.
And yeah, this son is. You can tell this kid, even though he's full of piss and vinegar, you can tell he would be absolutely shit in combat. If he actually got in a real fight, he would not last 2 seconds. So yeah, and then it's all being set up that it's going to be Crixus and Spartacus that have this display match for the guests. And yeah, the German brothers still trying to make their mark. And Crixus tries to get Spartacus to challenge him, but he doesn't accept it. So the German brothers just keep getting beaten up by Crixus. They keep having a pop at him and keep getting beaten up. By the way, Magistrate Calavius, again, just mentioned he's played by the actor John Back, who's an incredible actor. And we definitely need to do a Chew the Fat special on the Great Bookie Robbery.
Good scene, though. He does earn respect. So they do give him a slow clap.
Yeah. Yeah, John Back's also been in Lord of the Rings, Two Towers specifically. And like I said, he did a fantastic miniseries called The Great Bookie Robbery. I'm definitely going to do a Chew the Fat episode on that.
Here we go, Lance. Your favorite scene?
I didn't say it's my favorite scene. I said it's a scene.
Mine, though.
Okay, hold up. That's a section that's coming. Everyone's always jumping ahead.
Lucky kid.
This is the Inside Man seduction sequence. Yeah, so
you don't know how true that is.
I can now.
Luke, you naughty boy.
I can now, unfortunately, only imagine.
For research purposes.
Yeah, let's just say it brought back some memories.
Indeed. Yeah. So yeah. So there's various like sparring matches and things going on, and ultimately, we get to the point where the fight is to happen to celebrate the boy.
Also,
that dialogue as well. He does seem to stand a little taller. That's all really.
Yeah.
Something seems different about him.
Yeah, he's just had a shag. I like all that.
Yeah, like that. The staring between Spartacus and her, like just fucking pure hatred.
Yeah. She harbors a grudge. You can tell. That's all about to become very apparent. And there's a bit of dialogue. I think we missed out that she's sent back to his room. That happens earlier in this episode, Mira, and basically she's going to be punished if Spartacus doesn't sleep with her. So Spartacus agrees to say that he did, or certainly that she can say that. And she comes back and said, "Yes, he did unspeakable things to me," or something, or made many demands of me.
That was a previous episode.
Yeah. Was that previous?
Yeah.
Well, we just missed that. We missed that scene out in episode 9. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mentioned
it. But she's having her PTSD moment here of like she's getting visions of blood on the ground. You know.
So instead of Crixus and Spartacus fighting each other, because the boy says, "No, I feel Crixus is, past his prime." Oh, the dialogue here between
Salonius,
Batiatus, and Salonius is so good. I almost did not recognize you. You're looking very thin and pale, and he doesn't look any different. And that line. I'm sure as time goes on, he'll find time for the less significant guests.
Yeah, just rubs it in, man.
Yeah, it's just so like proper cunty to him, and the whole conversation is really.
These two, we can't be seen together, you jackass.
Yeah. And he doesn't understand why Batiatus invited him. He just doesn't understand why he's there. So, yeah, they celebrate the coming of the man, of the son of the magistrate. Yep. And this is where it all kind of goes a bit wrong. So he's expected to... Crixus and Spartacus are put forward. But at the son's instruction, he says, no, Crixus wasn't doing so well today. Let's see Spartacus and Navarro play.
It's Varro, not Navarro.
Is it? Okay. Well, it's Navarro. It's Navarro in Lance World. So, yeah, so they end up sparring. Ultimately, Spartacus wins. And, of course, it's an exhibition match, so no one's expected to die.
Of course not.
But, unfortunately...
His fucking flank.
The son, who has been planted this idea by Lithia when she slept, gives it the thumbs down, which means Varro has to die.
And I didn't see this one coming at all, neither.
I did. As soon as they were set up to fight, I knew exactly what was coming, because this is basically a replication of the scene in Spartacus the movie where he has to fight the African-American gladiator. And Woody
Strode.
Yeah, they've kind of bonded at this point.
I love that look right there. Like, what a you can. Oh,
yeah, you see, you could. That's when you can tell. You can tell from that look. She has schemed this. She's planted all this in the kid's head. It's amazing what a woman can hold over a kid who's had his first noshing. And yeah, this is all Lithia doing this. So she's responsible basically for the death of Varro.
Lance, if I may say, I found out that the woman who plays Lithia, she said she actually cried after filming this episode. She actually cried from this scene because of the relationship that the characters of Spartacus and Varro had as brothers. She said this scene made her cry.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's this whole thing with Varro's death, extremely well done.
Yeah.
And Spartacus actually isn't going to do it. He's actually saying
he was about to fight everybody.
Yeah, he's even suggesting to Varro, you know, kind of not in words, but let's go for it. Let's break out. At which point, various guardsmen appear with swords, and
Varro said, "Don't. They'll kill us both."
Yeah.
Proceed.
So he knows he's done, and Varro makes the decision for him and forces the sword, the point of the sword, into his body. It's a gut-wrenching moment, literally, and unfortunately, Varro dies at the hands of Spartacus.
And we're all laughing too about it.
Yeah, it's nothing because it's like a slave. They think it's fun. Lithia looks very happy about it. From Badiatus's point of view, apart from the loss of a slave, he feels he's gained favor. But this is where he finds out it's all been for nothing, because he says, I would speak to you about perhaps one day doing political office. And actually, if you go back one to John Back again, back one still frame. Sorry. Play it full from there.
Yep.
He's got that great line where, I have designs for political office after this. John Back says, in response to that, politics is too dull for a man of your persuasion. You know, this is where your talents lie. You got to stay here. In other words, he's not going to do anything to help him. So all of this has been in complete vain.
Yeah.
And, you know, you would ache for the sights and sounds of the arena. And he's like, no, I'll gladly give that up in the service of Rome.
You're a fine Lannister.
No, yeah, you're a fine Lannister. But I think he basically says it requires a different sort of person for public office. In other words, we're too high and mighty for you. Citizens of status with proper heritage. There you go.
Up real quick.
In other words, stay in your lane.
Well, it's also funny the fact that he says it, not the senator dude.
Is it Polonius that says that line? Citizens
of
status
with proper heritage. Said that.
Yeah, that's such a good put down comeback after him giving him such a hard time. I really do love that moment. Leave politics, leave politics to those with experience, or whatever it was he said.
Who are breeding for it.
That's it.
Most
That's
proper
it.
heritage too. Like
So Badiatus is kind of like proper deflated. Spartacus is devastated.
And Badiatus vows vengeance. He's gonna go after the magistrate.
They're both devastated at the end of this episode.
Cool.
Nice bonding moment with Mira, and I think that's the end. I think that's it. Ends there. Yeah. So okay, let's get into it. Can I remind my panelists to stay on topic in the relevant areas, please, and not to stray? So first of all,
Gladiator does not fear death.
Gladiator's virtues extend beyond the arena. As love.
So anything historical or to do with the general story, we will discuss here. This is a massive moment. This is a pivotal episode because of the death of Varro, because Spartacus is forced to kill him, because of the trickery of Lithia. Lots of Machiavellian, great term for it, stuff going on with various characters. Fantastic episode. Really like it. And also, if the character of John Back is saying these things to Magistrate Calavius, is saying these things to Batiatus, you're not fit for political office. That doesn't just mean he's saying it. It means everybody in his circle has probably also had that conversation. So after this point, Batiatus knows that his designs for political office are no more. It's not just down to that guy. But you know that guy's had that conversation with other people. You know everybody has the same opinion of Batiatus who moves in those circles. So yeah, really good.
More than anything.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No. Go jump in.
I was going to say more than anything. More than anything, what it is the politicians really did come from a different class. It was all to do with your standing, your family standing, generation after generation. So much like the class system was in this country, used to be in this country, with the landed gentry and all of that kind of thing, it was exactly the same, or very, very close to being the same in ancient Rome. You had to come from a particular type of family, a political family, somebody who came from that sort of class. That's what it really was all about, more than anything. It's quite interesting. I'm really pleased that they added this in, because it's a very, very important part of the history of the hierarchy in ancient Rome.
I think it's a little bit more complicated. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. They had patricians and you had pleb. That's true, but even plebs became very powerful in the 1st century BC, like Pompey Magnus or Mark Antony. They were pleb. They were not patricians. So it is true that if you were in the Senate, you had to have a minimum threshold of how much money your family had. It was definitely based on money. If you were below that threshold, you fell out of the ranks of the Senate. But Badiatus isn't.
And Darth Plato, correct me if I'm wrong, but what isn't it safe to say Marcus Crassus was what we call a self-made man who went from plebeian to becoming a patrician?
I don't know if he was a self-made man. I mean, he made his money through prescription. That's how he made his money.
But he was the richest man in Rome at the time.
Well, yes, but he made his money because of the prescriptions. I explained this in the last episode. He after the fall of Rome, to sell his forces, they proscribed the many of the people who had supported Marius, and he basically took all their money. That's how Crassus made his money. But however, there was also a system because the Roman system isn't just the Senate. There's a whole tier below the Senate. It was entirely possible for someone from a noble family like the Metellus family or the Cornelius family or what have you to look at capable people that were below the aristocratic level, but who were capable, and saying, well, this is a capable man, I want him to work for me. And so they put him on a certain path where they would have some sort of political involvement with with their locale. That was entirely possible. That's how Gaius Marius made his. That's how he became popular, but precisely through that. So the problem with the story of Batiatus is not because he wasn't a Roman aristocrat, he wasn't aristocratic enough. The problem about it is he was infamous. He was from that lower strata of society that you would never breathe the same air with. You would never walk into the same room with, because they were just beneath you. That was the problem with Batiatus. Also, Batiatus is much too old to be on this sort of a path. You have to be like a young man. Batiatus is not a young man. And how is Batiatus capable? Look at. He could be capable in the sense that some men want a yes man, someone that I'm making myself available to do whatever you need to have done. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to brown nose his way to Calavius. He wants to be Calavius's go-to man. You got a problem, you come to me, I'll take care of it. That's what Batiatus is trying to do. That Calavius isn't going for that. But
there was also that enormous amount of snobbery, wasn't there? There still was that snobbery to do with your social standing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly, but it doesn't explain why Calavius is even going to Batiatus' house in the first. Well, if he has a low opinion of the man that you would never consider, then why are you even going to his house? Why are you having his son's party at his house? It doesn't make any sense.
That's the influence of his son, because it's established in earlier episodes that his son is completely
well, that's true, but his son isn't making. But the son isn't making the decisions.
No, but the son is captivated by the sights and sounds of the arena, and specifically requests to go and see the gladiators in training. That happens in an earlier episode. As a result,
that's right. But that's right. But that doesn't mean that the son's virtus ceremony, that is, he is acquiring the toga. He is now a man. He's 16, therefore he's now a man. He has the toga. That doesn't mean it's going to be at Batiatus' house.
No, to be fair, we don't see that scene. That may have already taken place earlier in the day in Capua, which I think is probably the implication.
And also I didn't mention this, but also last episode, Batiatus says, "Oh, we want to befriend Glaber, not Marcus Crassus." That doesn't make any sense at all. Glaber doesn't have anywhere near the station of Marcus Crassus. That whoever wrote that in the story, that's just laughable.
I think that the reason that gets mentioned is because that Glaber is set up to be Spartacus's initial nemesis.
Yeah, it has to be because that makes no sense to say that. Crassus was an extremely powerful man by that time. Glaber, the hell was Glaber? Who?
Glaber was a praetor.
I know that, but that's what people would have said at the time. Who?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry. That's my rant for the next 5 minutes.
Chris, any comments?
Well, I mean, Plato knows the historical accuracy. I like the storyline because stuff Plato was saying with episode 9. I said to this episode, the payoffs. Mira being sent out, he does find Varro's wife, and just even stuff with Lithia. Yeah, it's like she's getting PTSD moments about what she's doing, and just all this payoff with I keep forgetting the guy's name, the one he tried to kill, Cronius. His name, bad names.
Salonius.
Yes, Salonius. Like the scenes between him and and just everything going on. It's like there's definitely, it feels like 9 and 10 are almost like a longer episode. Like a lot of plot threads in 9 go right into 10.
Yeah, there's a lot of fairly long scenes in this episode, but I really like this episode. Is great.
On top of these two brothers as well, remember these brothers, they came in episode 9, and they had to earn the respect that came from, and then also stuff with Crixus and his girlfriend, the Navia.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it's both episodes. There's a lot of many subplots that are all tying together.
Yeah, indeed. We'll come on to the characters next. There's probably nothing else to say about the history for this one, really. So I think, yeah.
Well, as far as the history goes, I agree with. I don't know much about the historical part of this, but the story itself definitely. God, I love that scene. Anyway, the story itself definitely, especially after what happens to Varro and what Spartacus was forced to do. Great story plot line because, like I said, the woman who plays, I forgot her name, but the woman who plays Alithia,
Vivica Bianca.
Yeah, and the guy who replaced Andy Whitfield, Liam McIntyre as Spartacus, he said that Vivica Bianca cried after this scene because she said this was probably the most, I don't know if she said it was her favorite scene or favorite episode, but she said it was the most heartbreaking scene she's ever did because of the relationship Spartacus and Varro had. In fact, Spartacus is on a mission. Varro was his only friend, and that was, according to him, that's the only friend he needed. And basically, as Spartacus starts the rebellion, Rome has taken everything from him, not just his wife, his family, but also now his best friend, his only friend, the only Roman he ever loved as a brother. They've taken that from him.
Yeah,
so like he's got nothing left.
We're very invested in that as well because adequate time has been spent to set that up. You have them defeating somebody at the beginning of this episode. You have several key bond moments between them over the last 3 episodes, especially episode 9. All right, let's get into this.
I swear to be burned, chained, beaten.
I'm going to say just off the bat that I think for me, this is Jai Courtney's episode, who plays Varro. The death scene,
I agree,
is extremely convincing. It's a really good bit of acting, and Jai Courtney he didn't really get he's had some interesting scenes with the narrative with his wife and stuff, but that scene there, he really went for it with the acting chops. In fact, him and Whitfield, it was really, really well done, and it had to work. You had to believe it. If you didn't believe it, this key moment, this is one of the key moments in the entire series. If you didn't believe this moment, if you weren't invested emotionally and you didn't feel something, this whole series would fall on its arse from the failure of that scene alone. So it's so important that you are invested and you do believe those two characters and what they're saying to each other in that moment, and they completely sell it for me. So outstanding performances all round, again, from the ensemble cast. Again, going to give props to Craig Walsh Wrightson, who plays Salonius, possibly my favorite character in the show overall. I love his scenes, and with Batiatus putting him down, the magistrate will find time for the less notable guests and all of that. Just brilliant stuff. And then him with his comeback. Really love that actor. I have written to Craig Walsh Wrightson and asked him to come on the show, but he hasn't seen the message yet. So clearly he doesn't check his Instagram very often. But I have written to him. So, if I hear anything, you'll be the first to find out. Also should give props to Liam Powell, who plays Numerius, or who is the son of the magistrate.
He's got to be at least in his late 20s, early 30s now, because
he's no longer acting. He only did four acting jobs, and this was one of them. Wow. He's not brilliant in the role, but I think he's perfectly fine, and I think he does well considering the veterans that he's in the space with. Do you know what I mean? He's really is. He's doing scenes with powerhouse actors like John Back, incredibly experienced playing his dad. So he's surrounded by really good people. So he does a fine job. I think that he probably could have put more into the role, some more nuance occasionally, and it might have been good to start to see the boy who will later become the psychopath, because that's the route he's going down if he's going to be that easily manipulated. I think we could have even, but he's fine. So Inside Man, your thoughts on the cast? Any actors you want to mention?
It's very difficult to pick one individual out in this, but I have to be honest with you. I thought
you don't have to pick just one. You can talk about.
I thought Varro was excellent.
Yeah, he is good.
Yeah, Varro, I think, was really was my standout character. To be honest with you, I really like him. I like him as an actor, and I thought he did a fantastic job in this. But Andy Whitfield also I thought really played it well this time round. You know, we really got to know his character through his his brilliant acting, and he was a brilliant actor. Um, but yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I can't pick an individual, but it's because it is such an ensemble thing. Um, oh God, yeah, Varro. Yeah, if I'm going to go with an individual, I can't remember the name of the actor. I'm sorry,
Jack
but I
Courtney.
thought he was excellent. Really excellent.
Jack Courtney.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Is Darth is there? He just looks really tiny. Darth, your any mentions for the cast or anything you want to say about the characters or cast?
I don't. I think Inside Man already said what I was thinking. He said Varro really. The moment with Varro was really shocking, and it really hits you, and it's. I found the setup rather unrealistic, but that's another discussion.
Yeah, I think if if you want realism, this probably isn't the show for you. But
yeah, no, of course not. And the thumbs down gesture, I think, is complete BS. I don't think they would have done that at the time, and I don't think it would have been honored anyway. But that aside, what happened to Varro was really a messed up thing, and I don't know what else to say about it than that. I don't know anything about the business or the acting business, but as an outsider, as the outside man looking in, it's if I were going to get into acting, someone like Varro, I might actually kind of take lessons from that.
Yeah,
very good. Leroy, the sand timer is running.
Oh, you're not fair, Lance. Anyway, if I could rename this episode, I would call it The Redemption of Spartacus and Varro, or The Vengeance of Alithia, because those are the three standout characters from this whole episode, in my opinion. Varro, when he's reunited with his wife, and then at his death, when Spartacus refuses to kill him and would rather fight, Varro says, no, they'll kill us both, and there's no choice. And Spartacus, there's always a choice. And Varro just gives him a smile and says, not this time, brother. And then Varro just takes it upon himself to have the sword put in his body and basically absolving Spartacus of any blame. But still, like I said, Varro was not just Spartacus' best friend. He was his only friend. And Spartacus didn't care. He felt Varro was the only friend he needed. And it's just snatched away from him because of Alithia. And after this episode, this made me really hate Alithia more than ever, more than Lucretia. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, the girl who plays Alithia, she said this was probably the hardest scene she ever been through, because she actually cried during the scene. So, and I almost, because I was not expecting this to happen to Varro. I really hate sad endings. I really do. But
okay, blue collar.
Yeah, just Spartacus and Andy, and just because just seeing the pain in his face, as everything Leroy said, killing a brother, he was hesitating, and this guy has only really cried twice so far this season. Once his wife died, and now the entire ending sequence with him punching the wall and Mira comforting him, and everyone's fantastic as always. But for me, Andy, just seeing he really did not want to kill this guy, and just watching him just struggle with it, and just his facial expressions are top notch, man. Like people would say, a shame that we tragically lost this guy at a young age, because I mean, what else could he have done after seeing him in this like right there, that just like, and actually seeing him cry, like,
yeah, it's by the time you get to this episode, you really can see that Whitfield had a pretty good range on him, very young in terms of his career.
He was only 39 years old.
Well, this was his first major casting. He'd done some stuff before this, but this was the role that was going to put him on the national stage, and indeed it did. And like you say, I mean, I could have, for example, I would have loved to have seen Andy Whitfield play the main role in Avatar.
That was a terrible movie.
Leroy, how dare you?
Well, like you're saying, but I mean, him playing Jake Sully, he would have brought more than definitely Sam Worthington.
I really think he could have done I would have liked to have seen what he would have done with that role.
Yeah,
I would have been very, very interested to see that. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to skip the sex and violence one, and because there's not much to say about that in this episode, other than yes, it's there.
They cheer for blood, and they shall have it.
My favourite line of dialogue is, I think, is probably Batiatus speaking with Salonius, where he says, "I'm sure he'll find time for the less notable guests." That whole conversation, actually, between the two of them, absolutely brilliant. In terms of moment, well, certainly the most powerful moment in the episode is Varro's death, without a doubt. Few could, it's unlikely you could better that. I mean, in fact, funnily enough, the last 15 minutes of this episode is so powerful, we kind of forget that there was a big battle scene at the beginning where some guy got his head lopped off with some chains. You forget all about that. That
right.
feels like another time. It's actually only the beginning of this episode. But yeah, I think the whole death scene is extremely well done. Top-notch acting, directing.
Yeah, bear in mind, what's tragic is not just Varro's death. He was executed, and Spartacus was the one that did it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Lithia was the one who was responsible. And Batiatus actually could have stopped it if he didn't want to carry favour with the magistrate. He could have still overruled it.
Right.
Because all he would have had, because it's the son's birthday, but he could have said, because he says, "I'll reimburse you the cost of the man," and then he could have just said, "These two train together and they fight together, and I want to see what they can do as a unit. So I'm afraid I must decline your son's request." That would have been my line at that point. So
yeah, absolutely. That should not have gone down like that.
Yeah, and now we will teach him a lesson and chuck him in the cell with the two German brothers and see what happens. So but yeah, it's a great episode. Inside Man.
Well, I have to say, as you said, the last 15 minutes of this was absolutely enthralling. Really was enthralling. And as much as I'm going to say the impact of Varro's death and everything, I would like to say that, but I think for me, my favourite scene is Batiatus when he's told that there is no way that he can pursue a career in politics. Is the look in his face, is kind of the drop in his face, and really good, really good. And it's and of course now we have all those little building blocks that are gradually falling into place that are going to contribute towards what we know is coming with the rebellion, the slave
What was the
rebellion.
line?
Slave rebellion. I beg your pardon?
What was the line that Flavia said?
Politics is too dull for a man of your persuasion. You would miss the sights and sounds.
I wrote it down. It says, "Leave politics to those who have the breeding for it."
Or think the proper breeding for it.
Yeah. And then Salonius comes in with his line.
Which brings me back to my original point that if that's really his opinion of the man, then why are you even in his house?
Yeah. That's right. Actually,
it's Hollywood, man. It's Hollywood. Money. They want a story to tell.
Indeed.
Darth Plato does have a really, really good point, and that is that the young boy would not really be dictating terms to his father, because you got to remember, the pater familiar would be the one that's dictating to everybody that lives under his roof, rather than the son making demands of his father. It's the father that would be making demands of the son. So I think Darth Plato, what he said earlier is a really, really valid point in terms of the boy, having this kind of control.
And I don't think it's proper etiquette to kill a man inside another man's house.
No.
Go ahead and kill that man. Come on. Is there a problem? Come on. Yeah, come on.
Before we do our final scores.
Right. Wait, I want to get. Hey, you didn't ask me my scene.
Oh, sorry, Darth. Darth.
Yeah, I'm next too.
You go ahead, mate. You go ahead.
All right. The scene with Varro is tragic. That is true. But there's a scene before that really sets that up. Now, Varro says, the champion of Papua, always friends, always making friends. And Spartacus says, I need but one. And Varro says, fortunate, since it appears that's one is all you have.
True.
And that was, that presages this moment now, because now he has no friends, except maybe Mira.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
sorry, I was just on mute for a second. Is that anything else to add?
Try to find it.
Not really. If I do, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I mean, besides being his friend, they're almost like brothers at this point. That's something, you know. And in this scene's even worse because they're actually small. They're play fighting. That's the point. It's an exhibition. It's not meant to be taken seriously.
It's supposed to be an exhibition.
Exactly. Even he says, "Remember."
Yeah.
Sorry,
the blade need to go inside the collarbone. They didn't quite do it right, but that's fine. That's a minor.
Yeah. And it was a payback for the joke earlier. Because remember, he said he smacked him on his ass when they're training in the outside. Like, "Oh, your flank. Watch your flank." He goes, in front of the boy, right there, my fucking flank. Like, because they're play fighting his friends. Yeah.
That's true. I'll say one more thing. Go ahead, Leroy. I'm sorry.
I noticed, and like what I noticed, I'm not gonna say what I loved about the scene. I'm not gonna say the Varro's death is my favorite scene, but it's definitely the most powerful scene. But what I noticed is that when Varro dies, he dies with a smile on his face, as if telling Spartacus, "It's okay. I know this is not on you. This is not on you. Do not blame yourself for this." That's right after he drove that Varro himself drove the sword into his shoulder because he knew that they would kill them both. So he basically Varro sacrificed himself so that love can live, and that's the family prepared for. And that was and with that, before Spartacus drove the sword even further, Varro smiled as if saying, "Go ahead, finish it. It's okay."
Okay. Anyone want to say anything else before I do something else before we do the final scores? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone?
I'll just say a minor. I'll say a minor thing, and that is the conflict between the Germans and Crixus. I don't know if the writers have this in mind, but it was true in those days that the Germans were they were raiding pretty heavily across the Rhine into Gaul.
That's right.
And at that time, that's why Caesar went up there to put that to a stop. That's why Caesar was even up there to begin with. That was that's down the timeline a bit. So it's easy to see how in a German tribe your test of manhood was we're gonna go fight the Gauls. This is your chance to prove that you're a warrior.
That seems to go throughout history, Darth Plato.
So here you have the Germans. They're in the Ludus. They're training, and they're training against the Gauls. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something within their being that said I can't lose to a Gaul. I wouldn't be surprised if that's why that they were being so fierce and trying to beat down Crixus. That's completely out of left field on my part.
Okay,
that seems to happen throughout history. If you take World War II into account,
but we're not talking about World War II today. We're talking about Spartacus. Right. Okay. So I'm going to move on unless anyone else has got anything crucial. Actually, we'll do the scores out of 10 now. I give this episode a 9 maybe even a 9.5. Really good drama, great. Everything that's been in this season is set up to this point. The setup's really beautiful. You're very invested by the time we get here. It's a great result for the show. Very gripping. As soon as I watched this episode for the first time, it was literally like, put the next one on now. So, and when I saw this show for the first time was when I bought the DVD box set. So, it was like, right, whack in the next CD, please. Let's see this. I mean, we watched the whole show in 2 days because we were so invested. Invested being the key word. Inside Man. So, your final thoughts and score, please.
Again, one of the best episodes. It's a clear 9, to be honest with you. I don't think there's any question of that. It was one of the most gripping episodes, certainly one of the most emotionally investing episodes where, and there were so many little pieces and parts of this that are contributing towards the big story now. The big final story, if you like. It's just a great episode. And I was so desperate to rewatch the next 3 episodes straight off the back of this. It's a real gripper. Terrific episode.
There's good setup done with this guard as well, who we're going to meet again later. So that's good. So rating out of 10. Sorry.
Oh, it's a 9.
Okay, Darth.
Well, at the risk of coming across as a Debbie Downer, I'm going to say a 7. And the reason why
that's a little low, even for you.
Yeah, the episode's really good. I agree, but and this is just coming from me because I am the way I am. I didn't believe the setup. I didn't believe that this kid was going to be able to manipulate this thing like that. I just didn't believe it. For me, I believe in verisimilitude, and the setup to Varro's death didn't have verisimilitude. The scene itself with Varro was really powerful. It was, and like I said, I'm a bit torn. I mean, I could go up to an 8, I suppose. I mean,
okay,
that's where I'm coming from.
Leroy, you're rating out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Okay, there we are. So, Blue.
Yeah, I'll go with a solid 9, and because Varro, remember previous episode, his wife is pregnant, and hey, you know what? I would love this kid, take care of this kid, even if it isn't my own, and
Okay, fantastic. So that's Spartacus episode 10. Only 3 more to go, and we're doing all 3 next week. So it might be a slightly longer episode.
I gotta go, guys.
All right, Leroy, no problem.
It's good seeing you guys again.
Yeah, I'll take you out.
Yeah, cheers, Leroy.
Right.
Take care, man.
So Inside Man, before we wrap up, I've got a little surprise for you. Angela, please say hello to my friend, the Inside Man, and what can you tell us about him? Let's see if we get a response.
Hello there, Inside Man. This is Angela. I've heard so much about you from Lance. Let me see. You're a background artist who worked on Band of Brothers. You're passionate about blaxploitation and Italian films. And you've got quite the eclectic taste in movies. Oh, and apparently you still owe Lance that lunch you promised.
Do you want to say something back?
Yeah, that's kind of taken me by surprise, actually. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Inside Man, what is your social security number? What is your date of birth?
But yeah, I'm kind of lost for words.
Angela, the Inside Man appears to be quite stumped by your presence. I feel he's very impressed. Oh, mate,
That's nice to hear.
Oh dear.
It's possible that the inside man might be a bit surprised to be chatting with an AI, but I'm happy to hear he seems impressed. Sometimes the novelty of talking to an AI can be pretty entertaining, and hopefully it makes the conversation a bit more interesting for the inside man as well.
Mm.
It certainly does. It certainly does. Thank you.
Right, well, you heard it here first on the Outcast creative channel. So, you know, fantastic times. Actually, do you know what? I want to test this a little bit further, so we're going to try something else. Hold on. Angela, can you tell me the important guest that I have coming up that I'm interviewing on the Outcast creative channel soon? I'm going to be really impressed if...
Lance, I'm afraid I don't know exactly who the important guest is that you're interviewing soon on your Outcast creative channel. I can see that you've got quite a few episodes under your belt, but I couldn't find any information about your upcoming guest. Could you give me a hint or clue about who it might be?
It might be a certain producer of various films and television shows. Does that help you?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's definitely an intriguing clue, Lance. So this upcoming guest is a producer with experience in both film and television, and that's pretty exciting. Do you think it's someone who's worked on any of the shows or movies you've reviewed on your channel before?
Anyway, we'll leave that there. So I'm going to turn that off now because Cyberdyne have not tapped into it yet and started to take control. But yeah, that's my AI talking, and it's been listening to my YouTube streams and learning about the people who come on those streams so it can comment about them. Oh, wait, hang on. Let me try something else. Angela, what is the inside man's opinion of films in the 1980s? I wonder if she'll remember. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, it's not going to give me an answer. Glitching, I think. Wait a minute. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. Hang on. It has given me an answer, but doesn't always pick up the audio.
It really should be saying by your command.
Hang on. It's not going to say by your command. That's your one. Angela, can you repeat the answer to the last question I asked, please?
Sure thing, Lance. The inside man's opinion on films from the 1980s is that he's not a huge fan of them. He generally prefers to explore other genres and eras of film rather than focusing on the 1980s.
There you go.
Spot on.
that is AI in action. Terrific. I can't believe no one's commented on that in the chat. People must be just as gobsmacked.
That's terrific.
Okay, so that's it from us. It just remains for me to thank my my co-host, Blue Collar Loser, my guests, the Inside Man, Darth Plato, Leroy Peters, and of course Angela, my AI app, who will now be interacting with me on a regular basis during my streams. Yeah, so we're going to be back on Tuesday for the Nielsen ratings. I am going to be doing a gaming stream tonight, so I'm going to be back. I'm going to be doing a new battle for Hex of Steel, probably in about half an hour after I've had a chance to catch up with the Inside Man. So yeah, so I'll be back on probably about 10:45, something like that. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for all the comments. Good to see Postman's Lounge popping in and putting such comments as he wanted to plant his seeds somewhere and so forth. And it's always good to see Sammy P, So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and do go back and check out the industry interview that I did earlier this week with cinematographer Roy Wagner. I did not expect that interview to go the way that it did. And when I say that, I don't mean it went bad or anything like that. It was fantastic. It's one of the best. He was one of the best guests I've ever had on the show. What IMDb and Wikipedia and so on and my research did not tell me about Roy is that he basically saw several movies being made out in the Midwest and visited those film sets, including How the West Was Won. And then he was in Hollywood at a very young age, during which time he was on set with Alfred Hitchcock and John Ford. He was also the DOP on Ed Wood's last and final film. So to say that this guy has met practically everybody you've ever heard of at some point is an understatement. And the stories that Roy had, oh my God. I mean, it's an incredible interview. You got to watch it. And I'm pretty sure we're going to get him back on. So, because there just wasn't enough time. So this is a man who grew up in the golden era of Hollywood. There's not many people of his generation left. So I strongly urge you to check out that interview if you haven't done already. And don't forget what I always say, be kind to the people you care about, phone the people up that are important to you and tell them that you love them. And if you're an AI app called Angela, always remind the inside man that the 1980s was an amazing era for many splendid films.